I'm going to go ahead and call our special meeting, this is our June 14th Town Council meeting to order. If I could roll call, please.
Morris.
Yes.
Edwards.
Here.
Woods.
Present.
Leak.
Here.
Cottle.
Here.
Passanello.
Present.
Aiken.
Here. We're going to first stand for a moment of silence due to the tragedy that happened this weekend, and all, yes, in Orlando, yes. All right, thank you all. First item is our swearing-in ceremony. Hey, how are you doing, Bob? I think we'll do it from the podium, I believe. Great, all right. Yes, absolutely. We'll go up there and...
Can I stand next to you? Sure. All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, David Lehman,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and
impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me as mayor of the town of Haymarket
as mayor of the town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
If you could just sign right there.
They're going to swear us out.
Good. It's good to see you.
Get a swear, all right.
All right, we'll get a copy of this for you. You're all set.
Thank you.
So, will we do the council one at a time or together? Okay. Sure. Okay, should I just, in any order?
Go from left to right.
Ms. Baker?
Mr. Vice Mayor, sir.
More efficient.
Oh,
Should we do one at a time or everybody?
whatever's
Done
easier.
it both ways, but they can also just be read for you.
It's entirely up to you.
We'll do them one at a time.
All right. Ms. Baker? If you'll,
Yeah.
raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you, sir. You know, it's that keen discernment that I bring to this office. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Susan Edwards,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Morris? You raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Christopher Morris,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon
all the
me
duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. No, you're right there in the middle. All right. I state your name.
I, Joseph Passanello,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Sir.
Right here.
John and Connor?
Thank you, sir.
Sure enough. All right, and you'll get copies of these.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And you are Mr. Cole. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, John C. Cole,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And then Mr. Leek. I state your name.
I, Connor William Lee,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
as a member of the Council of the Town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Yeah, don't raise your hand. Yeah.
Can we swear him in again to tell the truth? So helping God.
Let me scoot over. Let me scoot over here
While the lightning comes through.
Hey, watch that guy.
Thinking of Susan.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, we'll continue on here. Without objection, I'm going to add item after G, which would be H, and move H to I and I to J, our ARB appointment. Seeing no objection, I'll go ahead and add that to our agenda items. And our first item is our presentation of our VML VACO. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Robert Lauterberg. I'm the Managing Director of VML VACO Finance, and it's a pleasure to be with you tonight and to work with Haymarket on this credit benchmarks report. We have a hard copy of the report that follows what you see on the screen. Let me begin by, for those of you who are new to the council, give you a little background on VML-VACO Finance. This is a financial services program that's offered by the Virginia Municipal League and jointly with the Virginia Association of Counties. Our program began in 2003. We're a nonprofit corporation, and we're now registered as a municipal advisor. Under the Dodd-Frank legislation, entities that advise local governments on issuing debt are required to register as municipal advisors. And what that entails really is kind of a series of regulations that require that municipal advisors have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients, meaning that we put your interests ahead of our own. And then secondly, that we are in compliance with certain qualifications of municipal advisors. And MSRB tests that through a new test. It just began earlier this year. It's called a Series 50 examination. Steve Mulroy, my colleague, and I we were in the first group that took the exam, and we're now passed, I'm pleased to say. So those are our credentials. VML-VACO Finance is the most widely used financial services program in Virginia. We provide investment services. You're familiar with the Virginia Investment Pool. But when we first got started, the one service we provided was financing for local governments. So throughout our entire history since 2003, we've worked with local governments on financing. And in doing that, we've worked with rating agencies, with bond insurance companies, with commercial banks, and others, and really learned what the industry expects from local governments in order to make loans to them. And so we're going to share some of that experience with you tonight as we look at Haymarket. Now, the purpose of this credit benchmarks analysis is to describe how Haymarket stands from a credit standpoint, and to allow you to use some of that information, which we hope will be helpful to you in implementing your capital improvement plan. The process is this. First, we're going to identify some key determinants of credit quality, then look at Haymarket in particular and your peers to see how you compare to recognized benchmarks of credit quality. And then with that, assuming that you maintain a certain standard of credit quality, help you answer the question, how much current resources are available for pay-as-you-go funding of your capital improvement plan? And also, how much additional debt, should you choose to do that, how much additional debt can Haymarket afford for a town this size with your kind of credit profile? So to begin, these are what we would say are the key determinants of credit quality. This is adapted from the procedures that Moody's and Standard & Poor's, the two largest bond rating agencies, use. And they're surprisingly uniform. Even their weightings of these criteria are pretty consistent for those two rating agencies. They both give about 30% in determining credit quality, about 30% looking at the economic base of the town. Now, the town council has less control over this one aspect, because this is your tax base. It's the macroeconomy. It's what's happening outside the doors with residents in terms of your economic base. About 20% is revenue management. This is looking at the institutional framework, any limitations on your ability to raise revenues to support outstanding debt. It also looks at how well do your revenues match up with the spending requirements of the town? The third area is spending and fund balance. What are the trends in terms of spending? How much fund balance is available to the town to use? And then the last is about 20% debt and contingent liabilities. How much outstanding debt do you have? What are your liabilities? For instance, pension liabilities and so forth. So I'm going to begin with the economic base. And these series of charts are going to I think will describe where Haymarket stands today in each of these four areas. So looking at the economic base, probably the most fundamental is your population and the growth in population. When you look at the last two census reports, Haymarket has increased in size by about 100%. Pretty dramatic growth. There are parts of the state where towns are losing population. You've had a very strong growth rate. And we looked at 8 peers, 8 towns that are similar to Haymarket in size. They're in this general geographic area or part of Prince William County. And 4 of them really stand out as having significant increases in population. I would say those are Lovettsville, Purcellville, Warrenton, and along with Haymarket, those are what I would say are the really fast-growing localities that are peers in this area. And when you look at the after 2010, there are estimates that the Census Bureau prepares, and it shows this trend is continued growth in all of these localities, and particularly in the 4 fast-growing localities. So strong population growth, that's a very positive trend. Median household incomes, obviously very important. Haymarket, as of 2014, your median household income is $126,000. Very strong number. It's about double the Commonwealth of Virginia, about double the U.S. average. When you look at your peers, Haymarket is actually number 1 in terms of median household income as of 2014. So many towns would die for this. They would love to have this kind of profile. We looked at per capita income just to validate the household income, looking at it on a per capita basis, and you see the same thing there. Again, Haymarket higher than Virginia, higher than the United States. The rating agencies, when you look at their criteria, they generally look at median household income, but it's helpful to look at on a per capita basis as well. Taxable assessed value. This is an important characteristic. Represents a big part of your tax base, the real estate that's subject to taxation. And there you see a consistent, upward trend over the last 5 years. Poverty rate, very low. Unemployment below Virginia averages. So you look at all of these economic criteria, and that's a real key strength, I would say, for the town of Haymarket. Now we look at revenue management. These are general fund revenues, and what we did, this isn't just straight out of the CAFR. It's not straight out of your accounting statements. What we did is we took that number, your general fund revenues, and we netted out federal government revenues. A lot of the federal government revenues, oftentimes they're grants, they're one-time sources of revenues. So to get a more descriptive picture, we looked at general fund revenues net of federal government. And here, there was an upward trend, but from about 2013 to the present, it's been pretty flat revenues. So that would be a factor that someone doing a credit analysis would take a look at. Revenue growth over looking at the last 3 years, 3-year compounded growth rate. These are what we identified as the 4 fastest growing peer localities in this area. Lovettsville, very high rate of revenue growth. Purcellville, pretty high. Haymarket, Warrenton, not as high. So we drilled down to see, what's the difference between those localities. This is the source of revenues, 2015 for the 4 localities, and here, these are the different tax revenue sources, and the bottom is other. What's other? Others can be grants. It could be fees that are unique to that one local government. So we took those out of the analysis to get just to the tax revenue sources. And you can see there's a difference. There's a difference in how the different localities approach this. Lovettsville, Purcellville, where you're seeing, very strong growth in revenues, they rely much more heavily on real estate taxes. About 50% of all their tax revenues come from those sources. Haymarket, about 20%. Warrenton, around 10%. Kind of surprising, for some, where you kind of expect in many localities real estate would be the major one. That's not always the case. The other sources of revenues, the cigarette tax, for instance, may be a less reliable source of revenue, which is just something to consider. This is a 30,000-foot look at your revenue picture. Real estate taxes are going to automatically increase given the appreciation in real estate values, particularly in this area. Those you can expect significant growth. Other areas, cigarettes, that may not be something that's as reliable as a source of revenues. So on revenues, we're seeing kind of a stable trend there, a flatlining of revenue growth, which is something we may want to examine more closely. But I'll turn now to spending and fund balance. And here we did the same thing. We took the general fund spending and we netted out the one-time spending, particularly the funding for capital outlay projects. And this is good when you have the flexibility to be able to use current spending to cover capital outlay and not have to take on more debt than is necessary. But to get kind of a trend, we wanted to take capital outlay out and see what remains. So you see kind of a gradual increase in general fund spending, as you would expect, over a period of time. But you put these things together. You put together the revenues, which are not growing rapidly, the continued increase in spending, and it's necessarily going to mean that your surplus, the amount that's left over, is shrinking. And in fact, you see that in 2014, 15. You've also budgeted in 16 and 17, basically no surplus. So in terms of an operating surplus in those years. In spite of that, Haymarket has a very robust fund balance, which is now over $2 million, and is a real strength. It's a key thing that rating agencies look at, is to see, how is the locality positioned if the economy, turns down or is impacted in some way. The fund balance is your cushion to protect you, and Haymarket has a very strong fund balance. This is what one of the rating agencies says about, where should a fund balance be. So this gives you a couple ways to look at it. Moody's says a very strong practice is to maintain a 25% fund balance. That's 25% in relation to general fund revenues. But now Moody's is looking at all localities, including very large localities as well as small ones. So that's kind of a blanket standard. May not be perfectly appropriate for a small town where you may need a larger cushion than that. So next we looked at the median of all small AA rated cities. And for that, the median of AA, that's a very strong credit for a smaller size city. The median was about 38%. So that gives us another data point. BML VACO is recommending, for your consideration, maintaining a fund balance of a minimum fund balance of say 50 to 60%. And so we put that line up there so you could see how you stack up. Still gives you a fund balance that exceeds kind of a prudent 50 to 60% level. So we're going to use that information later on when we make a recommendation. We looked at debt of the town, and here the bonded debt has continued to decline, and part of this is projected based on debt obligations that the town has. So that's a continuing downward slope. That's a positive credit factor. Bonded debt as a percentage of your taxable assessed value. Here, to give you a couple guideposts, Fitch rating says low debt is at 2% of taxable assessed value or below. Moody's said a strong credit profile is debt at about 1.75% or below. Haymarket is currently about 0.5%. So it's kind of suggesting that in dealing with your capital improvement plan, there is some room here to consider debt. Your debt service as a percentage of total expenses, you're at around 7%. Standard & Poor's says, an adequate goal is to set it at 15% or less. Here with a town, I think it might work in reverse to the fund balance, where you may want a larger fund balance than some of these medians or standards. In terms of debt service, you might be able to go a little bit more toward the upper end. And I say that because this standard is looking at cities that may have very large workforces, school systems, things of that nature, which you don't have in the town. So for debt service to be a slightly larger percentage than those types of localities, that may be appropriate. So here's some conclusions, and I'm going to let Steve Mulroy bring it home. But these are some conclusions. First, when you look at the economy in Haymarket, you see a very positive picture. Strong population growth, household incomes very high. Your general fund balance very healthy. You have declining outstanding debt, manageable debt service. I mean, this is a good news story. The one thing that may be a possible concern is that you've had significant surpluses in the past, and we're seeing those go away if the trends continue, and what you've budgeted is a realistic assessment of the future. That's a concern, and I say it's a concern because we're looking at this in the context of, how can we implement the capital improvement plan? How can we take this on? Well, one way is to use existing resources. Another is to be able to absorb debt service so you can finance a portion of the capital improvement plan. If there's no latitude between revenues and expenses, then it's going to be a challenge to absorb additional debt service. So that's why we're talking about these factors. Overall, as far as where Haymarket is today, it's a very positive picture. You would be a very strong credit. We took a local government, not for a published rating, but we took one of your peer localities to a rating agency to get an underlying rating when we were doing a bond issue, when we were trying to put them into the series of bonds with the strongest credits. And they had never been rated before, and the rating agency, I believe S&P, rated them AA, and that's really unusual for especially the first time out for a small town to be able to achieve that. And I think that's similar to the profile I see here. This is a strong town. And now I'm going to turn this over to Steve, and he's going to answer the next part of this study, which is how do we fund the capital improvement plan?
So as Bob said, I'm Steve Mulroy, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come and present to you tonight. Bob kind of laid the groundwork of what the current credit profile looks like, and I'm going to the left. Oh, the roller. Okay. There, got it. Thanks. So I'm going to walk through what we were given a preliminary capital improvement plan that has $7 to $8 million worth of projects. And so the question is, how do you finance that? And Bob kind of alluded to using existing resources or financing a portion of that. So the part that I'm going to focus on is kind of the combination of how do you finance some of those projects and what is the debt capacity given the revenue and expense picture that Bob laid out. Currently, as his slide showed, your fund balance is about 100% of revenues, far exceeding the recommendations by the rating agencies of anywhere from 25 to 40% for larger localities. We're suggesting, given the size of Haymarket in terms of population and budget, probably be prudent to keep 50 to 60% of your fund balance to revenues. So that, with a $2 million fund balance, that leaves about $1 million that could be applied towards capital projects, leaving still $1 million of non-restricted fund balance. Again, larger localities, they have more easily could dip below the 50% threshold on that ratio just because they have more flexibility in raising revenues in the event of emergency or unexpected capital projects. This slide, lays on top of the previous slide that you saw. Historically, as has been said, you're at about 100%. Pro forma, the last chart, or the last bar on the right here, assumes that you spend about $1 million towards capital projects. That would put your ratio in the 51, 52% of revenues. So still well ahead of the AA small cities and Moody's very strong category. As far as financing, a portion of your capital projects, based on some ratios that I'll talk about, we think it would be, well within your capability to finance up to $2 million, based on the budget that you've for fiscal 2017 and some other ratios. your net bonded debt is the taxable assessed value. Adding $2 million would allow your ratio to still be under 2%. Again, of going above 2%, it kind of suggests a weaker credit profile. So that's the rating agency uses. That's why we kind of recommend you try to keep it under the 2% level. Debt service as a percent of total expenses. This adding up to $2 million would enable you to keep your debt service below 15% of expenses. So that's your annual principal and interest payments. This is the chart, the line you saw earlier with the existing debt as it's paid off, projected out into 2021. The dashed line represents pro forma. If you were to add $2 million, you'd take your debt slightly over $3 million, and then as you're paying off principal each year, both on the existing and the new debt, your pro forma debt would come down. So what this looks like on a key ratio, the net bonded debt outstanding as a percent of taxable assessed value, currently Haymarket is a little over 0.5%. If you add the $2 million, that would bring it up to about 1%. Again, well, below the Moody's and Fitch ratings of strong credits. Debt service as a percent of expenses, another key metric. And debt service is a fixed expense, so it's important to keep that fixed expenses on the lower side of your budget because if unexpected events occur, or the economy takes a downturn, you don't have as much flexibility in your budget if a large percentage is fixed expenses such as debt service. So currently it's about 6.5 or 7%. When you add in $2 million to your current debt, it brings it up to about 12%. Again, adequate is 15%. Left a little cushion here because when you look out at your fiscal 17 budget, that ratio actually goes up closer to 15% based on your expected expenditures for 2017, fiscal year 17. So we think that when you look at these key metrics, $2 million it's about $140,000 a year in debt service, would be comfortable given your fiscal 2017 budget and your fund balance and taxable assessed value. So summary, you could apply up to $1 million of fund balance for capital project. In fiscal 2018, your CIP has about $425,000 that you could apply that to, so you wouldn't necessarily need to spend it all at once. Then in fiscal 18, you could apply financing of $2 million to cover the balance of that the projects in fiscal year 2018. This assumes level annual debt service of about $140,000 a year over a typical term of 20 years. And so with that, open it up to questions if there are any. Be happy to answer them.
Questions from the council?
I have just one.
Councilwoman Edwards.
When you, back on page 17, when you compared the major general fund tax revenue sources, do you know if Lovettsville, Percival, and Warrenton are paying taxes to a larger jurisdiction as well? Are they double taxed in those towns?
Yeah, they are.
They pay Loudon taxes as well? Okay. I was just curious.
That's a good question.
Jen, you might know this. The meals tax for Warrington, is it like 4% as well, or 5%? Do we remember? Just curious. They had like.
I believe it might be a little lower, I think 3%.
Okay.
I don't have the charts in front of me.
Right.
Have a bigger base, too.
Yep. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
Go ahead, Chris. No, please.
Thank you very much for your presentation. On page 19, the operating surplus, did you take into consideration the reason why this amount is lower? Is it because we had put more into reserves, or is that taken into consideration? I don't know if we had more in reserves that caused this number to be this low. I mean, when you look at simple math, if you're putting more in savings and you have this operating surplus getting lower and lower, is the reason that we have a lower operating surplus due to the fact that we're putting more in savings?
Yeah, you can see the calculation in the spreadsheet in the back. So in 2015, total general fund revenues were about 2.7 million. You see that? On the
Yes.
first page. And the town spent on capital projects that year about 700,000. So that is how we calculated the operating revenues, which were about 2 million. Okay?
Okay.
And then to get the surplus, we looked at the expense side as well. The total expenses, we subtracted out the, I'm sorry, I misspoke on the first one. The 700,000 was federal government grants that we took out. On the expense side, we subtracted out your capital spending to get the net general fund expenses, which is about 2 million. And that's how we calculated the surplus.
So the question, this surplus includes our reserves. It includes all the monies that we have is included in your calculation for this operating surplus.
Let's see.
Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, I understand what
Okay.
you're saying.
Yeah, this because that's your total general fund revenues less federal government. So everything is being accounted for as new revenues for that year, yes.
Any other questions, Councilman Morse?
No, I'm just not clear.
If I could make a statement on that, I believe what Councilman Morris is asking, and I think the answer is, in the past, we had these surpluses because we were not spending the money. And it was going into quote-unquote savings. This last year, 2 years, we have been spending this on capital, which is reducing that amount of money that is a surplus anymore. So no, it's not going into savings or anything like that. It is actually being spent on the Hanover property and on this building. And as we continue to do that, we're going to have well, I'm not sure if you call it a zero balance budget or whatever it is, basically spending what comes in. We will not be having surpluses in the future based on our current spend plan and trying to get the Hanover property done and this building done. So I think the answer to your question is that, yes, that takes into account all of our financials. And because we're spending this on capital, we no longer have surpluses, and we're digging into what surpluses we did have, and those will be gone soon. And we will be basically spending what we bring in, and almost like every other household in the neighborhood.
95%. Almost every. Thank you.
But if I may ask the question and to follow up with what Steve is saying, and thanks Bob and Steve. Glad you guys came up tonight. So in those calculations, though, we're also talking about our tax structure, our expenses, our daily operating expenses. Isn't that not in the calculation as well?
Yes.
Okay. So what we've been doing then is we've been increasing our expenses, so there's less left over also to put into the surplus or fund. So that's the other side of the equation. So one of my questions was starting to think about our tax structure and how you can help us figure that out, what's an optimal level, because it isn't sustainable. And I think you've convinced us, or at least me, that by what your analysis is, that it's not sustainable. And, you know, we've talked about that, I believe, in the finance previously. So I think that's kind of helping answer Chris's question, I think. Okay.
Councilman Kahn.
And again, I appreciate you coming. I really like, I'm a visual learner. This really lays it out, okay? On page 17, I do have a question. It follows up Councilman Passanello's. As I look at these various colors and what they represent, do you have a percentage breakdown of what a solvent town should look like? So for me, it looks like we rely an awful lot on cigarette tax, and cigarette smoking is in decline. It looks like our real estate tax is extremely low. Meals tax is a big part of it, but we're kind of in a hub where a lot of people eat out in the transient area. I guess my question is, as you look at our graph there, are we healthy or do we have some adjustments? It looks like we have adjustments.
I think we have opportunity.
I think the meals tax is probably an excellent source of revenue right now. I understand new restaurants are coming to town. That's going to be a real benefit, I think, in terms of that source. You know, you're asking me a policy decision that really the council, you know, has to decide what works best for you. What are your priorities? I can't say one is healthier than the other, except that I would say you need to look at the revenue sources, and if a major one may be declining because there's less cigarette smoking, for instance, then that's something to be aware of and to make plans around.
I guess, and I understand what you're saying. I guess my follow-up to that would be, you know, we're only looking at our little corner of the county, if you will. You have access to a lot more data across the Commonwealth. So I can see it would be a very big benefit for us to tap into your resources, because it just seems like, as Joe said, there's some opportunity to maybe make some adjustments to really help. So that's all I have. I appreciate it.
One way we can help, you know, as part of this exercise, is if the town is considering, you know, policy changes, and you want to see what's the likely impact of that going to be, how does that compare with other localities? Right. We're happy to you know, to do that as part of this study.
Vice Mayor.
Just as a follow-up on what was just mentioned, as you can see here, we're getting less than 20% of our revenue from real estate taxes.
18.7.
But you have to balance that against, we have one of the lowest tax rates in the area. So, and that is why. We have quite a bit of real estate here, value of real estate and that, but we're taxing it at a low rate. Therefore, that's why we're bringing it in so little. So you have to balance it against that. To bring in more, obviously, you have to raise taxes, which nobody wants to do. So it's a balancing act there to understand what is an optimum source of revenue from all the different sources to get where we need to go.
Yeah. Further questions?
I was just going to add yet. No one wants to raise yet.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we sincerely appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I have a question. When you were doing the analysis and you say Haymarket, we're just talking about our population, right? We're not talking about the zip code Haymarket, right? 20169 or?
Yeah, no, our data came from the audited financial statements.
Okay, good.
That's what we use.
Yeah, excellent. Just want to make sure we're not skewing any of the data and particularly on the income side, because that's pretty good.
Yeah,
It is.
really good.
I'm talking about the household.
The household income. Yeah.
Median household,
Yeah.
Yeah, Greenwood Crossing.
I expect to see a lot of fur coats around.
You're welcome.
yeah, yeah. Well, great.
So I guess the next question I would have then is, what would you suggest that the next steps would be? How would you envision, maybe thinking how we would go forward? I mean, you've made a recommendation, $2 million we could pretty much handle. And I was thinking about the debt itself. We have old debt, and I know previous councils have consolidated the debt, and I don't know if that makes any sense. You'd have to do the cost benefit of that and figure that all out, do the sensitivity analysis. But just from your perspective, what do you think the next steps would be in the process going forward?
Okay, yeah, Steve, you want to
I think this is kind of an iterative process. The $2 million and $1 million, $2 million of debt and $1 million of fund balance, that's a static snapshot of where you are today.
Right.
As Bob suggested, there's some policy decisions. You have kind of a large list of capital improvement projects. The next steps would be to, take a hard look at that. What do you want to do? We can, help guide the discussion from there. If you really have your heart set on $4 million, we could, update our analysis, come back and say, this is what your numbers look like without any changes. This is maybe where you need to be to keep your ratios, credit profile solid. I mean, so it's an iterative process, and there's some policy decisions that need to be made, and then we can react to that and kind of help inform that process with the analysis.
Great. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Any further questions? All right. Sincerely, we thank you for bringing this information to us. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And we want to say, too, that we've enjoyed working with your town manager, Brian, and your excellent staff. They're a real asset. And it's kind of bittersweet that I understand this may be Brian's last meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank
Bob.
you.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, you too. Yeah. Well, our next item is our budget and tax rates. Yes.
After this presentation?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. We're on page 37. Page back at 37. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yep. We come right after the presentation then. Great, okay. Brian, do you want to add anything to,
I believe we've done everything we set out to do this year. I think the one thing I've encouraged staff to do is, I don't know if we're quite ready, but I feel like it's worth it to set it out. We wanted to present the residents and you all with much more of a budget report and packet. I think the next step from this point on, it would be to review the GFOA standards and submit it and see where we stand and stuff for our outstanding budget presentation award. I'm not sure if we're quite there yet, but I think it's the good benchmark to see where the town is. We said last year that when we started this process, this was going to be a growing process. We tried to establish this year more of where do taxpayer dollars go to, and I think that you can clearly see this in this budget packet about where a dollar is going to that taxpayers are putting in. And so I'm hoping it provides you all with more of a foundation to build upon and grow upon. I think the budget itself is a solid budget. It's still aggressive, but it's also still conservative. There's many decisions that lie ahead of you all moving forward, and I think you all had a little bit of feedback on that in this presentation that we just heard. So,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the Resolution 2016-008, which is a resolution to adopt the annual general fund budget, capital fund budget, and adopt the tax rates in support of the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016, ending June 30, 2017.
Motion on the floor.
Second.
Second, Councilman Woods. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Woods. Cottle.
Yes.
Costello.
Aye.
Aiken.
Yes.
All right. Our next item is our capital improvements plan.
Page 14.
14, or 47 of the whole packet. Mr. Mayor, the only thing I would add to this is I do believe capital improvements plan was amended as recommended by the Planning Commission, and I present to you our CIP. You may notice that some of the numbers may CIP, keep in mind, is a component of the comprehensive plan exercise. The numbers in the capital improvements plan are the same. However, the numbers in the capital fund budget might be a little bit more than these numbers. What that is that's a transfer over. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, you will probably need to come back and make an amendment as recommended by our accounting consultant prior to the end of the fiscal year or after the new year. It'd be after the new fiscal year, which would be transferring funds that were not spent in this year's fiscal budget into next year's fiscal budget. Okay. We have a draft recommended motion on this as well. Uh-oh.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the 2016-2021 capital improvements plan as recommended by the Haymarket Planning Commission.
Motion on the floor and seconded by?
Second that.
By Councilman Cottle. Discussion on the motion?
Yes, I do have one question.
Yes.
Just for clarity, on my packet, page 19, the math on this. Am I doing the math right? It shows 700,500?
Oh, that's our new one.
Isn't it 710,500, or did I do my math wrong?
I believe your math is right. It's just a typo.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm good with that, subject to the change to 710,500 estimated cost. Thank you.
It was a typo. Okay. I apologize. Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Morris.
Yes.
Edwards. Woods.
Aye.
Cottle.
Yes.
Costello.
Aye.
Aiken.
Yes.
Great. All right. Okay. Next item I put on there for town facilities, but we're going to skip over this and bring this after executive session. We have a couple contracts to consider, and to defer this until afterwards. Our next one is our check signing policy. And that's page 27. And also has a draft motion as well.
Go out to the bank. Just go out to the bank.
Any day now.
Page 27.
I don't believe I've reviewed this closely enough to make the motion.
Okay, you want to make a motion?
Do we want to take a moment to finish reading it? I think just to give a cursory, of course, the title of the position of either town manager or mayor has the ability to sign singly one check up to $3,000. Any amount over $3,000, it will take a secondary signature, or two council members to sign any checks. So in other words, we have a double set of eyes, and the process there again is Donna would open up the mail, Sherry reviews it, puts it in for approval. We have the town manager, our mayor, approve the invoice, and then we go to the check signing, which then, that policy. Our original one, or not original, but our last one, we had two positions. We had the treasurer and, yes, the deputy clerk, which was a check and balance there. But now that we have one treasurer that handles both of those, that's when we had Renee. So, questions on that?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2016-009 for the payables, receivables, check signing policy as presented.
Motion on the floor and seconded by?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Woods. Discussion on the motion. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Edwards. Yes. Woods. Cottle.
Yes.
Costello.
Aye.
Aiken.
Yes.
Next item is Dominion Virginia Power, and apologies for the late email that went out with this. We were in draft form, then finally got it tweaked by our attorney, Karen Cohen, that did a great job in changing some of the wording there. And as we remember this, this is in response to the latest SEC examiner and third-party that was presented to the SEC in support of their findings.
What is the resolution number? Adam?
If everybody wants to take a second to finish looking at it, if you haven't already.
I was just happy that it came out in email earlier so that we could at least review it before the meeting.
Great.
So that was thanks to having that done.
All right. Ready to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2016-010, a resolution in support of the environmental assessment performed by the independent consultant and staff report on behalf of the Virginia State Corporation Commission.
I second that.
Okay, a motion been seconded. In discussion on this motion. Roll call vote, please.
Morris.
Yes.
Edwards. Yes. Woods.
Aye.
Cottle.
Yes.
Costello.
Aye.
Aiken.
Yes.
And moving on, we have our town manager job description. As we know, this past week or so, this was put around, and we've made some changes to it. And I think you'll find before us the latest adopted one once it passes.
I'd like to thank Joe for volunteering to put the time in and take the comments and put it all together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And would you like to make a motion, too?
I've made plenty. I was trying to give somebody else a chance.
I move to adopt the town manager job description as presented.
I'll second that.
And second it. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Yes, we have our revised agenda item number H, which would be our ARB appointment.
I move to appoint Ron Cavazos to the unexpired term of the ARB ending June 30th, 2019.
Second.
And seconded. Councilman Passanello, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Unanimous. All right. One second.
I do have one question. The city safe facilities are going to be when we get back.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Sorry for that little delay there. So now we're going to go into a closed session, and I'll let our attorney bring us into, since there's a couple different matters here that's going to be going on tonight.
I move that council convene in closed session to discuss or consider personnel matters, namely the consideration of candidates for appointment, specifically the appointment of a new town manager, and resignation of town employees, as permitted by Virginia Code 2.2-3711, paragraph A1, for which the Virginia Freedom of Information Act permits discussion in closed session. And that council convene in closed session for consultation with legal counsel or briefing by staff about the pending case of Blue Sky Events LLC versus Town of Haymarket, as consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the town's negotiating or litigating posture, and consultation with legal counsel employed by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, in accordance with Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Virginia Code 2.2-3711, paragraph A7, permitting such discussion in closed session. And that council convene in closed session for discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, in particular the town's landscaping contract, including discussion of the terms or scope of such work, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the town, as permitted by Virginia Code 2.2-3711, paragraph A29, for which the Virginia Freedom of Information Act permits discussion in closed session.
We would have never been able to do that without her. Okay.
So moved.
Yeah. Need a second? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you all. Five. Wait. Okay, go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Go ahead and start with our certification.
I move that council certify that in the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion.
So moved.
Second.
I heard Councilwoman Edwards, and I heard one other.
She got it, sir.
Yes, okay. Councilwoman Edwards, second. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead and do a roll call on the.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Great.
Motion to adjourn?
You see, we had one other thing that we pushed off
Yes.
to facilities, but we're going to,
I have a motion on the floor, so you're going to withdraw it.
I withdraw.
oh, okay, yeah. Facilities, I don't think that there's any action if there's no motion regarding the contracts we had or looked at. So we'll go ahead and accept, I heard a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Yep, and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you all.